Hey everyone, Jessica Kubasi here. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be going over a little bit of my wedding workflow editing. I feel like a rapper, because that rhymed, everyone. I just want you guys to know that rhyme. And I just said like 20 million things right now. So basically, when I do weddings and I'm editing pictures, I want to give you guys an idea how I kind of do that, since there are a lot of pictures that I go through. So using Lightroom makes this extremely easy for me. So I'm going to show you guys, just a little bit of the editing that I do and the workflow. So as you can see, I already edited one of the photos here, and I'm going to show you the before and after. And I selected a couple of images that I really like. For instance, this one is a classic bridal pic. I have this one. We have a faraway photo. I kind of just got a variety of shots, so I can show you guys how I would edit these. Now, I'm going to start by doing a reset on this. And to begin, what I like to do is add a little bit of contrast in each color section in the tone curves area. Don't worry about all the fancy stuff I just said. I'm going to break this down for you guys. So I go to tone curve, and I go to red, green, and blue. So I'm first starting off at red, and I'm making a 5-point curve. So clickety-click there, one click up here, this one goes up, and this one goes down. And that's it. So you're gonna repeat this for both green and blue. And it doesn't have to be fancy. I mean, there's really no fancy way of doing this unless you're using a totally different program. So again, just lifting these up, and again, a 5-point curve. And as you can see, it already kind of added a little bit of colored contrast, which I like. So I'm going back to RGB, and before I do that, I'm gonna higher up the exposure, and let me show you guys the before and after so far. Look at that. And that's all just through tone curve and a little bit of exposure. So now what I like to do is desaturate the photo just a little bit. And I can tell in this photo that there are some reds and pinks in here that I want to change kind of like the hue of them a little bit, or the luminance. So I'm going to play around with the luminance. As you can see, this changes the colors a little bit. I don't want them too much. So I'm playing with those. And look at the slider. Isn't this cool? You can just change it. If you don't like the shade of red that it is, you can change the shade of red. Isn't that cool? You can make it pink. This is all personal preference, and I usually like to toggle with the yellow and lower the saturation on yellow. And again, play with the luminance and the hue. You can come up with some really nice results. And as far as this goes, another thing that I do is I make sure that the color temperature of the entire photo is correct. So I'm just gonna swing this over to make it a little bit more on the cooler side. And I'm gonna lower the highlights just because it's looking a little blown out. I think that looks pretty good. I like that. It's very simple. Another thing that I do is I copy these presets to other photos and then simply adjust them based on the photo. So if I click to this photo right here, the next one, and I press Command-Alt-V, it copies all those same settings from the previous photo. So then I can simply tweak this. So if I want this to be a little on the warmer side, I can do that. Because each photo, you're gonna have to tweak just a tiny bit. You can't use the same colors for each photo. I mean, you probably could, but it's a stretch. Each one I like to kind of tweak it to my liking. I'm going to be highering up the shadows a little bit. I'm not going to go through each and every photo. That would take forever. But again, I'm going to the next photo, Command-Alt-V on Mac. And it's, again, just making my workflow so much easier. I don't have to sit and edit each photo completely. And again, you can go down to that color tab. I'm clicking the red, and you can see I can change the entire, look at how, imagine I gave someone this photo and I can change the entire hue and saturation of these reds. So now we're gonna move on to the photos with the bride, and I'm gonna see how that turns out. What I like to do is Command Alt V, copy all those settings and see how it turns out. If I don't like it, I simply just reset all the tones. And also another thing that I do is I have base presets that I use for all my pictures for weddings. So I'll show you guys one. This is one for the wedding photos with the bride, and this pops out all the colors in her dress. And again, these are base presets that I made just so I can add them onto each section of photos. So for the bride, I probably use this preset because look, I could just keep reusing the same preset for all these photos. And again, each picture you're gonna have to tweak the settings because, you know, if you make it too light or too dark, you're gonna have to fix that. So I can be lowering the highlights in this photo, whereas this photo, maybe I could be popping out the highlights. So it's just all based on preference. And for this preset, if you guys are curious, I'll show you guys a quick glance of the settings. Exposure's at negative 0.05. Contrast is at 30. 29, I lied. Highlights are pretty low. I popped the shadows out a lot for this one. Brought down the whites, again, because she's wearing that white dress and because this is backlit, you know, all the light is coming from here. Like look, all the light is coming from here and she's a little bit darker. I wanted still her skin tone to be showing along with the dress and the details of the dress. So bringing down the highlights and the whites is very important. As far as the tone curve goes, I brought up those blacks a little so that it could be gray. You could bring this down if you want it to be just pure black and you wanted a more bold photo. And I also brought down the whites, again, so those details would not be so white, but you can also, I bring this up, you can see how it changes the whole tone of the photo. And again, even if I move this tone curve, see how it's changing that entire photo? The focus is on the dress, so I didn't want to over contrast this photo too much. So I kind of like this as well. And again, if you need to change back to previous pictures, go back and then you can just press Command Alt V and it copies those previous settings. And I'm going to show you guys the tone curves. Again, it's a 5-point thing that I just showed you guys, except I added another point. And again, that same 5-point, exactly what I showed you guys last time. There's no highlights, no shadows. I fixed up the reds a little. Oranges, just a tiny bit for that skin tone. The yellows, just a tiny bit. The green, I feel like I went through all these. I like to tweak the greens a lot in my wedding photos because the greens are, again, look how, I don't know, I actually don't mind this color of green, but I usually tweak the greens just a little bit so they're not too saturated. So I usually desaturate the greens. And here are the other colors: aqua, blue, purple. I don't even know why I touched purple. Move that back. I don't see any purple in this photo. And also magenta, just because I think the color of her bouquet, I don't know, magenta might be creeping up in this picture. As far as everything else goes, I don't really touch too much. I add a little bit of grain, but that's when I'm finished with the photo. And the camera calibration, I do sometimes play around with this. It does make a difference, a big difference. One trick that I gave in my last video was if you go from Adobe Standard to Camera Portrait, it changes the colors of the entire photo. And I don't usually use this, especially if it's backlit. I kind of like to really think about when I'm using that color profile. So as far as this picture goes, again, I'm just copying and pasting settings. Actually, I had a specific I had a specific color for this shot. Oh God, these, you're probably thinking these all look horrible. So I'm using, again, that base preset from the last photo, and I'm just changing the color temperature, which is very important because it will make the photo look 20 times better and less yellow. So I'm liking how this looks. There's a before and after for that. And let me quickly do like a shoe shot for you guys. Again, I'm just copying and pasting old settings and tweaking them. So for this one, if I wanted it to be a little bit more vintage looking, I can just bring this up a little. And desaturating also helps. So this is literally what I would do for each and every picture. But having presets that work with a bunch of photos really does help. And again, I would just tweak each one. And especially for pictures with the groom and the bride, you want to be careful with what presets you use for these. And I simply copied and pasted from the previous one again, and I'm tweaking those. And I actually had presets already for these shots, but I just wanted to show you guys how easy it is if you're just using one set of colors, how you could do this. And I want to change the greens in this one, of course. I love these kind of nice bluish green tones, because in Michigan we don't got no sun. I don't know where the sun is in this picture. Where's Waldo? And for a nice detail shot of a centerpiece, I already had one kind of made. And for this one, I used, just like the previous presets, as you can tell that this like it's really like wonky tone curve. I use this tone curve, and again, that 5-point curve. Same exact thing, except I just changed up the curve, the RGB curve a tiny bit, and I enabled profile corrections just so, as you can see, my lens created a distortion, and I'm just fixing that so it's nice and pulled back. There's no shadows on the corners. And again, lowered highlights, shadows are up to basically like the same exact settings from the previous pictures. So I hope this gives you an idea of the workflow that I do. I mean, look at that. I just copied and pasted from the previous photo, and these are really nice settings that I can use. And it doesn't take me long to go through all these. And also tweak the yellows for the grass as well. If you are intent on changing the grass color, I would change the yellow and then the green colors. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how I edit. I really hope you guys like this tutorial and this video, and I hope it gives you an idea of how I edit my wedding photos. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and thank you guys so much for watching.